Hi, in this video we're going to be using a Maqueen robot, so one of these, and we're going to be sending it around an obstacle course. So we want it to go forward, but if it hits an object like the side of the robotics table or another object, then we want it to turn either to the left or the right. And to set up our project, we're only going to be using the forever block, and you'll notice there are no Maqueen instructions here. So I can either click on Advanced and go down and click on Extensions, or go up to the wheel at the top right-hand corner and click on Extensions there. Either way should do it, and you're looking for the Maqueen instructions. Not Maqueen Plus, but Maqueen. If you don't see that, you need to search Maqueen, M-A-Q-U-E-E-N, and search for it until you find the block. So I'm going to click on it, and it will drop the blocks here into the window. Advanced there. So forever I want it to be going forward, but if it meets an obstacle, then it must do something. So I need my logic. I need that if something. Well, it's got to be close to that object. So I'm going to need to go into logic, and I'm going to use one of these ands and just drop that in. And the network's a little slow, so you might see some lag. But so if it's between something and something, if it's within that distance range, so I'm going to need to go back into logic and get that equals to. So slow today. And I'll just duplicate that and pop it in there. So I got the AND block and then two of the equal blocks. So if what is within the distance? Well, I've got a little ultrasonic sensor here which reads in centimeters how close it is to something. So that, and I'll just duplicate that, has to be less than 15 centimeters. So it's got to be within 15 centimeters of the object, and it must be, well, it mustn't be touching. So not touching, it's touching if it's at 0 centimeters. So it mustn't be 0. So I choose that where the equals is cancelled out. So it's got to be less than 15 centimeters, so within that 15 centimeters of an object, but it mustn't be 0. If it's touching, it's too late. So essentially, I'm telling it must be between 0 and 15. And what must happen then? Well, if it's within that range, then it must turn randomly to the left or the right. So I've got to set up something which allows me to tell whether it's a random turn or not. So I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it turn. And I'm going to set that random turn to a random true or false. So I go into my maths section, and I'm looking for pick random true or false. Now this is a triangular block, but it fits inside the circular block there. So it's setting my turn to a random true or false. So it's reading, and if the sensor is within that distance, then it's going to turn it random true or false. But otherwise, the else, I don't want the else if, I want the else, it must just go forward. So if it's within that distance, I'm going to get it to do something, but otherwise it must just go forward. And to go forward, I've just got my motor. Oh, not the stop motor. I want the motor forward. There we go. So both motors, left and right, all motors must be going forward at a particular speed. And I can turn it up to 255. It's 255 because that's the maximum amount that you can get in 1 byte of information. I could make it go slightly slower. It's probably a good idea while testing it, just to make it go a little bit slower, and then if you can turn the speed up if you want. So essentially, if it's within a certain distance, I'm going to get it to do something. Otherwise, it's just going to go forward. So to get it to turn left or right, I'm going to need another if. So I go and fetch another if, and I pop it in there underneath. So if my turn is true, for example, I'm going to turn to the left, otherwise I'm going to turn to the right. Okay, so I can set it up like that. So if my turn is true, so if the turn is true, so I'm going to need one of those equals. So if my turn is true, I'm going to make it turn to the left, otherwise, else, it's going to turn to the right. So now I need to get the robot to turn to left or right. And you do that by using, I'll just duplicate that, using your left and right motors. And you make the one go forward and the other go backwards. So if I think about my robot, and I've got it kind of upside down here, so if I wanted to turn to the left, like that, then the left-hand motor's got to go backwards while the right-hand motor goes forwards. So my left-hand motor must go backwards and my right-hand motor must go forward. And I can get it to turn at full speed. But I need it to kind of go for a certain distance. So I do that by putting a pause in. So I don't want it to go for a long distance, for a long number of seconds. It's got to be for a fairly short distance, and it depends on the battery strength and things like that. But about 300 should cut it. In other words, my left-hand motor is going to go backwards and my right's going to go forward, and it's going to be doing that, and then it's going to pause for 300. And that should make a significant turn so that it can then go forward and try to go forward again. But if the turn is false, so I can make it another else if I like. So instead of an else, I can make it an else if and duplicate that. Else if the turn is false, then I want it to go the other way. And I can duplicate my left-hand motor, duplicate my right-hand motor, and duplicate my pause. So this time, my left-hand motor must go forward and my right-hand motor must go backward. And then I want it to pause, and then otherwise it'll go forward. So that code should work. We need to test it, and if it's not working, we can go and tweak our speeds, we can go and tweak our pauses, and we might have to tweak the logic if the logic doesn't seem to be working. But that's your starter code. That's something that you can go away and test and see if it works.